John, how are you, mate?
Not bad, Tom. How are you, buddy?
All good, all good. So
it's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, mate. I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
So for everybody who doesn't know John, aka DJ Moll, I want to give him a little bit of an intro so you guys know what he's about. So he's a DJ from the north of England. He's had a career spanning 21 years within the industry. He's held various residencies down across Northumberland and the northeast of England. He's currently a resident on NDC Radio and attended his first ADE this year. Mate, you've been at it a long time, haven't you?
Yeah, I know I don't look like I've been going for 21 years. Well, I'd like to think anyway. But yeah, it was actually my 30th birthday yesterday as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a late birthday present coming on here, mate. Really appreciate the invite.
Mate,
it's
very nice.
It's a pleasure to be part of it, mate. Yeah. But yeah, 21 years. Started. I mean, where do I start? I mean, kind of. I grew up and I was brought up on music. One of my favorite memories of being a kid was like just sitting with my dad and listening to music with him. Yeah. Things like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin. Not house music, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, just loads of different genres of music. I used to listen to Michael Jackson when I was younger, and you know, all sorts. But I used to listen to all sorts of genres, and I think that's kind of helped us as I've kind of grown over the last, as I say, 21 years.
Yeah.
The big thing for me was that I first started learning how to DJ when I was 16. So I remember being younger when I was at school and trying to mix like cassettes together and stuff on different cassette tapes, and it was just putting. It was crazy. But then I've got my first set of decks when I was 16. Some Campbell Drive turntables.
Which make were they? Just out of curiosity.
What's that?
They were Cam, were they?
Yeah, Cam, mate. Yeah, belt drives.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was a better way to try and to learn, really, especially on belt drive vinyls. And it was just I think it was a Cam mixer. It might have been a Newmark mixer.
Yeah.
Really like just low range kind of mixer. But yeah, that's how I learned. And by the time I was 17, I started DJing in bars and different pubs and doing private functions and things like that. And I was doing that for the next few years. When I was 18, I went to college and I studied media communications and production. And ultimately, I wanted to become a radio DJ. I want to be a radio presenter, something to do with sports or music. And I managed to land myself it wasn't a paid role, but it was within hospital radio. I worked on Radio Tyneside for 3 years, which was, again, an amazing experience. Again, something that's kind of helped me to get where I am at the moment. But I don't know what it was. I don't know if I just didn't push myself enough, if I'm being honest with you, when I was younger. And I ended up just getting a job to ties over because I wasn't making enough money doing what I was doing. So I got myself a job and I'm still in that job now. You know what it's like. You fall into a job and you think, I'll just do that for a couple of years. I'll get some money together and then I'll kind of pursue what I want to do really in terms of music and DJing and stuff. But 18 and a half years later, I'm still in that job. But so kind of, it's, you know how it is. It's crazy. The time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's so difficult, and like for people that come across this podcast that happen to listen to it, you know, trying to pursue something that you really want to do in life is no easy feat, and you're always stuck between the sort of devil and deep blue sea with it, because and ultimately you need enough money to live, you know, and then trying to do this as a passion full time. You've got to be at the stage where you can fund that enough so that you can pay your bills and stuff like that. And for most people, it's a huge risk, isn't it? You know.
Well, totally, mate. I mean, the thing is, when I was 16, when I started, you're buying vinyls every week.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to. They weren't cheap.
No.
You know what I mean? Now you can obviously, it's all digitalized.
Yeah.
It's still not cheap. You're still paying, you know, it's not as much as what a vinyl would cost, but as you say, mate, you're trying to pay your bills, and it's an expensive hobby, and you've got to be dedicated.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah. So I want to go right back to the very beginning. So your earliest musical influences, like you say, were around quite an eclectic mix of music, like Led Zeppelin and that. Was that from like what your parents were listening to, or how did that sort of like, how did it all start, the music sort of?
It was my dad. Yeah, so my mum and my dad had two kind of different musical tastes, which again I love, because I love both tastes. So yeah, as I say, like sitting with my dad and listening to some of the music that he used to listen to, I used to love it. It's one of my favorite childhood memories. Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and things like that. And my mum, on the other hand, would listen to stuff like Simply Red and Wet Wet Wet.
More 80s.
Michael Jackson, more of an 80s. So like you're thinking like my dad 60s, 70s rock, and my mum 80s, and I just loved it, and I kind of guess that's because I was brought up on those different genres. I just went from there. Like I still love all different genres of music. House is my passion. But yeah, I still do. I love loads of different genres of music, and again, that helped us when I spoke to you about doing private functions and things like that. I would do people's weddings and different things, and you start learning how to read a crowd, and having that background knowledge of when I was growing up really helped. I
mean, to do those sorts of gigs, and I'll say this on record because I've done those sorts of gigs. Being a DJ at a party or a wedding, in my opinion, is harder than DJing in a club.
I agree.
If it's like just a house music event where you're playing for an hour or two, because generally speaking, at those sorts of functions, you're playing for maybe 4 or 5 hours. You've got different sorts of age groups there that you've got to try and appeal to. You've got to play about God knows how many tracks over the course of an evening. You've got people that, you'll probably remember this well, mate, where, because you've got different people who like different things at those weddings, everybody's like, when you get to the end of a track, everybody's waiting in suspense for the next track, and you either get a woo or you get a oh, until they get pissed, obviously, and then everything changes. But
absolutely,
but it's a hard graft, like playing those sorts of events that you say. But it's a great foundation for when you end up going into a bar or a club or whatever sort of, when you're just playing basically one genre. It's easier. It's like a walk in the park, isn't it? In comparison. 100%. Did you feel that?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, you're totally right. You've got so many people you need. And the key thing I said before was reading the crowd. And trying to, and you're never going to please everybody, though, are you? No. Especially when you've got someone that comes up and asks for the Macarena, and then you've got some real like rockheads who want to hear some AC/DC. It's crazy, but I've learned so much from doing those things, those parties, and having those interactions with people, reading the crowd, all that kind of thing. I've learned so much from doing that. So amazing experiences, and it was good doing it from a young age as well. Thankfully, I was introduced to it, and I was able to do it from 17. I probably was too young to be in a bar DJing, but yeah, like being from such a young age and having those experiences has made us who I am today. So I would never look back on. If anything, I look back on fond memories with those days. So yeah, amazing times.
So how did the house music thing come about for you? What got you into that?
Yeah, in terms of, thinking back, I was on the different types of music that I was brought up on. I started getting into your old rave tapes, like your happy hardcore stuff like that. Had all the old mixed tapes. There was a night in Newcastle called Judgment Day, which was a well-renowned night in Newcastle. Used to listen to all that music, and then I kind of just gradually started listening to a little bit of jungle music. And again, it's the different genres. I would listen to that. I would tune into Radio 1 on a Friday night, late at night, listen to some jungle, and then I would start. Big influence for me when I was younger, Dave Pearce's dance anthems. Used to love that on a Sunday night. I used to look forward to a Sunday night, listen to that. It was amazing. And kind of from trance down into house, and it's where I've stuck now, house music. Different genres of house music. Obviously, I love quite a lot of different genres of house. But yeah, I went through that journey of hardcore, jungle, trance music, and then house, and it's been house ever since, mate.
It's very similar journey to myself. I'm just a couple of years older than you, but yeah, exactly the same thing. When I first got into it, probably like yourself, like trance was the biggest genre. You know, it was a really big genre at the time. And obviously like Dave Pearce, Judge Jules being on the radio, they were all played primarily trance music. And like, yeah, great memories of listening to that show on a Sunday night and wanting to hear all the newest records and what he was playing. And, you know, that's how you used to basically pick up what tracks you wanted to get yourself, wasn't it? You'd tune in and think, you know.
There wasn't Shazam then, was there? So you basically, I remember I would sit with a notepad and I would be listening really carefully, and just so I could catch the name of the tune. And I would write it down, and I would wait, and it wasn't as easy back then to find out. You can just like type the name of a tune in now, and you could speak to the person who's done it. Do you know what I mean? You can find out when it's going to be released. But back then, you'd be like literally waiting until, I can't even remember how I used to find out when they were coming out. But
that's like a few of the other guests that I've had on. We spoke quite a bit about, you know, vinyl records and buying vinyl, and that's where basically, like, I mean, most of my Saturdays were taken up by going to the record shop for a few hours, because if you didn't go to the record shop, obviously you would never, you may miss these records, or you would never know when they were coming out. So if you went there regularly, suddenly that track that you were hearing on Dance Anthems on a Sunday, a few weeks later or whenever, you know, you'd go in the record shop and there it would be, and you'd be like, wouldn't you? You'd be like, yes, you know what I mean? You've got
amazing, yeah. So from the place where I'm from in Northumberland, it's called Asherton. And there was one record shop in Asherton called Flipside Records. Unfortunately, it's not there anymore. And you would have to get there first thing on a Saturday morning, because they would only get 1 or 2 copies of that vinyl in.
That's right, yeah.
So if I didn't get there early enough to get it, I'd be knackered, because probably my best mate, one of my best mates, Dale, he'll have been there in front of me and get it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so you had to be, as you say, Tom, you spending hours in a record shop, and it was great memories. I missed those memories, to be fair, because it's like what you do now. You go on the internet, you go on Tracksource or Beatport, and you buy a tune, and you know, it's good. But nah, like I miss those days 100%, mate. Yeah, it's a really good point.
Yeah, it's something that I've, you know, the last sort of like 4 guests I've had on, the shows aren't out yet, but most of them, we've all spoken a little bit about vinyl, because obviously we're all fairly similar era in dance music. Everybody says exactly the same thing about how they miss it, and I do as well, because for people that weren't involved in it, then they probably wouldn't be able to understand it. It's like, well, it's just buying music, isn't it? But it wasn't. It was the whole experience of going to the record shop. It was about the fact that you'd like you say, you'd been listening to these radio shows, to, you know, and there was particular tracks that would have resonated with you, that you really wanted a copy of it. And then not just that, you'd come across other things whilst you were in there, and there was such a sense of satisfaction of walking out with that vinyl in the bag, wasn't there? And knowing it's yours, you've got it,
just having it like that.
It's,
and even the sleeves, like the Positiva sleeve, just getting goosebumps thinking about it. I love the Positiva record label back in the day, and just the blue background. It was awesome. It
was also like, and it is still a bit like that, but not quite as much, where, you know, these label sleeves were so iconic on vinyl. You would, like, when you were digging through things, as soon as you seen one, you'd take it out because you'd want to listen to it, because you, like you say, if it was Positiva, you'd think, well, yeah, it's going to be good, you know, like it's, you know, if you, well, whatever particular labels you were into at the time, you sort of trusted it, and you definitely have a listen, because just by the sleeve, you know, because you knew what they were about and stuff like that. It still is like that, but the volume of music that comes out on labels, on a lot of labels now, is like tenfold more than it ever used to be. You know, like the promos I receive, you know, a lot of labels they're releasing weekly, whereas labels on vinyl didn't do that. You know, it was that never happened. So it's quite a bit more involved. So as a DJ, how would you describe your sort of like your musical vibe style as such?
I I think I'm just thinking about the show that I do on a Saturday on NDC. That is pretty much me in my musical taste. So I like to start off quite soulful, like easy into the mix. Basically, I love like the Sandy Rivera stuff, and just to start off the show, Seb Junior, things like that. Just to absolutely love it, mate. So I like to. If I was to have my perfect set, it would be what I do on a Saturday. So soulful, into some like nice disco house, funky disco house, and I love a good piano. I'm a sucker for a piano riff, love it, and a nice bass line, which is why I love the Plastic Dreams edit. It's just that bass line, mate. Like when it kicks in, the pianos, the bass line, and I do like a little bit of tech house, but I'm not as much as the other genres. But if I was to, I would say my favorite for me would be piano house. You know, like some of Low Steppers releases with the pianos in, you know, amazing. So I would say for me, piano house more so than the rest.
Yeah, you're like me, mate. Like, because people listen to the sort of music in which I make, which is more 90s sort of like, I suppose, bit of an old school vibe to it house. They think that that's the only sort of stuff that I play in my DJ sets. And I'm like, no, I'm just like you. You know, I like to, you know, obviously depending on what I'm playing and stuff like that. But if it was my own, just like what I like to do, I'm exactly the same. Start off nice and easy, more soulful, disco stuff, you know, stuff that's a little bit funkier, getting into, you know, bit more stuff that's a bit more uplifting. I'm the same. I don't play a great deal of tech house. It's all right. It's just not really my thing.
I agree.
Mind it, you know, it's just not really the sort of vibe that I'm really into. But I'm exactly the same in my DJ sets. I play, obviously, if it's a house DJ set, then I'll play all house music, but it'll be different sorts of house music. And people, some can't get their heads around that. They think that because I make a certain sort of music, they think that that's all I play in my DJ set. And I'm like, well, that'd be quite boring, really. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, it'd be boring for you, never mind anybody else listening, wouldn't it? So
100%. So I'm just the same. I like to move things around a little bit, and that, I think that is also a skill as a DJ, is to understand that. Obviously now with CDJs and what have you, actually learning how to beat match and mix two records together is not anywhere near as difficult as what it once was. But the ability to choose music for what particular time or stuff like that, you know, that to me is a skill that I don't think you can teach. Would you agree?
That's the 100%, mate. And it goes back to what we were talking about reading a crowd earlier. But the tune selection is huge. Anybody could step up with the decks and sync the two tunes together now, and do you know what I mean? But like, you've got to be able to play the right stuff. You've got, and this is one thing that took me a while. And I know we'll go on to like how I am where I am now in terms of the radio station and stuff. But you know, during lockdown, I was able to concentrate on. I found one of the hardest things for me was building a set. So kind of getting in my mind, like the right types of tunes to play at the right types of times. So if I was doing a 2-hour set, how I would kind of start off and blend in, and that was the most difficult thing for me. But you know, I feel like I've gotten there. I'm still learning. I mean, you're always still learning. But you're totally right, mate. Like the right tunes and the right times. It's massive. It's definitely massive. Yeah.
How do you? So everybody's got a slightly different methodology for building this. So say, for instance, I'm playing at a venue quite local to me on Saturday, and I'm playing for the whole night at this venue. So I'm playing for about 4 hours. And rather than just playing straight house music, I want, because it's effectively like my own night, where it's just me. So it's like a really cool, quite intimate venue. It only holds like 100 people, but it's always busy, and I say I get to do my thing for the whole night rather than just playing like for an hour and a half or something like that. So I want to try and bring something a bit different. So like at the start of the night, I play really easy and then sort of build it from there. But the question I've got for you is, what is your methodology for how you go about building your sets if you're on the radio, if you're playing somewhere, or whatever you're doing? Because everybody's got a slightly different way of doing it. And I'll tell you mine after, but how do you go about it? So say, for instance, if I said to you, right, I'm going to book you at this place on Saturday, this is pretty much like the vibe. What would your sort of process be from there for how you would go about your set?
Well, first of all, I would do a bit of research. So certainly if it was somewhere where I'd never worked before. Yeah. So, if you were to invite us down to Leamington and have a night at that place you were referring to, never been there before in my life. Yeah. I'd research the place. I'd look what they have on different nights, and the kind of the different vibe that they've got on it. See if it was a Saturday, what was happening the Saturday before. Check out the photo galleries and stuff. Try and get
the lie of the land a bit.
Yeah, get a feel for what the place is like, who's attending, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've made the mistake. I'm saying I've made the mistake. You learn so much from doing different gigs. I don't know. I try and plan me set out, but I don't think you can do it tune by tune. You can try and plan in advance as much as you can. And one of the mistakes I've learned from in the past was I try to literally I knew I had an hour and this is the 12 tunes I was going to play. And when I got there, it just didn't work.
Yeah. So
that was a massive. So I think, I would research the place I was going to. I would look at the other DJs who's on the card with us as well. Who am I following?
Yes.
And if I knew the DJ and I knew that style, great. Yeah. If I didn't, research them. Because they're going to be somewhere. They'll be on Mixcloud, they'll be on SoundCloud, they'll be on YouTube. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'll be able to understand what they're playing. So I've kind of got an idea of, who I'm going to be following and then who's going to be following me.
Yeah.
And then I can then I can just put a full lot together of different genres with the tunes that I know I'd like to play on the night. And I would just I would have different folders, I would have a soulful folder, funky, different things. And I knew I would have a selection of really good stuff, whether or not I'm going to be playing new, if I'm going to throw a few classics in there. I would have a good selection of folders on my USB and take it from there. So that's how I would do it. But it'd be really interesting to see how you could,
Yeah, so basically how I do it is a lot of similar things. So obviously it's very dependent on where you're playing. So say for instance, like the place that I'm playing at on Saturday, they've invited me and they want me to just do my thing. So that's different. So what I'll do is go there, do my thing, and then see how things are looking on the night. Because then if I go back, I'll know what worked, what didn't. But generally speaking, if I just get invited somewhere, what I tend to do is ask all the same questions like, listen, what's the vibe of the night? Who else is playing, stuff like that. What I do is I basically have, generally speaking, I like to account for all situations. So I have 3 folders set up. I'll have what I call like an early, mid, peak, depending on what time I'm playing at, an end folder. And what I'll do is I'll go through all my normal playlist folders, so like my more chilled house ones, and I'll just start selecting stuff and putting it in one playlist for the night. So that, if it's Joe Blogg's night, whatever, I'll put it. So I'll just go through. So I'll go through all my chilled playlists and be like, right, yeah, that could work, into what my mid playlist. And then from that main playlist that I've chose, like, I don't know, could be 150 tracks that I feel could work at that venue. I'll then separate them into an early, mid, late, and end. So the idea behind it is I've chose a lot of music for what I feel could work at that venue or that set time or stuff like that. But I've also got options of early music, so much more chilled out music that I feel can work. Because this is all venue and night specific. More mid-range stuff that I would I call it chuggers, stuff that just it gets things going. Peak stuff that is more hands in the air, and end stuff, because you never know, mate. And I've had this happen to me where, say for instance, you're playing and you're doing an hour and a half or 2 hours or your hour, and the next DJ's late, or they don't show up, and the promoter says, do you want to carry on? Can you carry on for another hour? And if you've only selected specific music for your set, you're fucked, basically. So what I do is having an early set of tracks. So it could be like 20 tracks early, you know, a load of mid ones, a load of peak ones, a load of end ones. You can't ever get caught out, because if I get there and say, for instance, if I'm playing the peak slot, or if I'm playing the mid slot, mate, you never know. Sometimes it might not be as busy as what you think it could be. So if you've planned a load of music that is like, in your head, the party will already be started, I'm just going on to take it up another notch to hand it over to somebody. Well, what if you get there and it's not as busy? You can't start playing that music. Well, you can, but it's going to be a bit out of place. So that's how I do it. So if I'm playing at a specific event or whatever, I spend time going through my existing folders, and then I separate them out into, and I do it the same every time. Never let me down, mate. But I don't put anything in an order, anything like that. I just know that music that I've chosen will work early on in the night. That music will work, you know, as the set progresses or the night progresses. That's the peak time stuff, and that's the stuff that I'll generally play at the end. Doesn't mean that I won't, you know, sometimes when you're playing, as you know, things just come to you, don't they? And you think, oh, yeah, that track would go down well now. But generally speaking, I'll just, you know, as I say, if I get there and, you know, I'm playing my set and I'm playing like a mid set and it's not very busy, then I'll go to the early stuff, play some of that, wait for it to fill up a little bit more, move on to the mid stuff. So I'll always be keeping an eye on the time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's basically a very long answer, but that's how I go about my set preparation.
It's really interesting, and it's great to have these conversations. And you know, it's, you know, we might touch on this later, but like just getting advice and hearing people's different ideas, it really, and you know, that just you saying that to me now, it resonates, you know, it really helps. And it's similar, but you know, it's great to just hear what other people do. And you take bits and pieces away. Do you know what I mean? That works for you.
Where it's subjective is that we could listen to the same 5 songs and say, for instance, if we were going to separate them into early, mid, and bangers, you might have a different interpretation of what that's, you know, where that song fits. That's fine. That's what makes you unique as a DJ. I might listen to that and I might say, to me, that's peak time. And you might say, well, I don't think it is. I think it's more of like a mid-set sort of tune. Brilliant. It's just got to be your interpretation of what you know, like what you think, where it works. So how did NDC Radio come about?
Really good question. So, you know, obviously the lockdown and everything that's been going on, it's been a horrific situation. You know, and you try and take some positives from it. And the big thing for me was I was able to dedicate more time to my music. So don't get us wrong, I was, you know, I was downloading music and stuff. I was obviously buying tunes and stuff before lockdown happened, and I was doing the odd mix here and there. Kind of lost my way a little bit in terms of my music and my research. But yeah, I found myself with a lot more time to be able to research my tunes, start becoming more familiar again with the labels, and just doing stuff, just putting mixes out there. Developing me mixing, really developing how to build a set like we spoke about earlier. Obviously I wasn't playing out anywhere, so it was a lot of time dedicated in this room. And yeah, so I was putting a lot of mixes out there, and it was all on Mixcloud. Put a couple on SoundCloud, but it was more so on Mixcloud. And how it came about was one of the resident DJs, Rachel Kempton, who's as I say, she's a resident on NDC. She actually commented on one of my mixes that I'd put out there, said she really enjoyed it. And we started having a chat on the message thing on Mixcloud. And next thing you know, I'm doing a demo for the station. And they really liked it. So I was given a guest slot on Rachel's show on a Saturday afternoon, and it just went from there. Yeah. It took us a bit out of my, at first when I was off like, you know, a weekly residency, 2 hours every week, it was kind of, was quite a daunting task because, you know, you feel like you need to have 2 hours every Saturday of new tunes, which is not so, it's
really
not
hard, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and I was thinking, you know, but it really took us out of my comfort zone, but I just went for it and it's been the best thing I've done.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was, I mean, I've been doing that now since early February 2021. It's flown over, but yeah, that's how NDC came about. And I've got a lot to be thankful for from Rach and, you know, the guys on the station. They've been amazing. Really welcomed me in. It is like a family. I know it's a strange thing to say. I've only met some of them once.
I get it. Yeah.
But we have Zoom calls like this, and it's a brilliant. It's been amazing. It's been brilliant, and that's how it happened. Yeah,
I think
really happy.
If anything, this whole coronavirus situation and the lockdown I think it's taken many DJs and producers and what have you totally out of their comfort zone, because I had never would have ever envisaged ever doing a live stream show in my life. You know, like even I found that more daunting than playing to people, which is mad because in the day you're in the comfort of your own home. But when I realised that this coronavirus thing is no joke, at the end of the day, we're not going to be, you know, we're going to be locked down for quite some time. I was like, shit, you know, like, you know, I've got to do something. You know, I want to do something. Seeing the fact that this live streaming thing was happening and stuff like that, and I thought, right, I've got to do it. And then, mate, I remember like my first show, I was really like in my head. I was like, these people can see me, I can't see them. I'm like speaking to nobody. It's like a form of radio, but obviously people can see you. I found it really daunting, mate. It took me a little while to get used to it, and like talking on the mic to people, and it's something that I never envisaged doing. But I'm pleased that, probably like a lot of others, that they've had to reinvent themselves a little bit, and it's been good.
And it's another way of interacting, and it might be actually, you know, I don't know how you feel, but do you get a sense of it's maybe a little bit more personal now because you're actually interacting with individuals, whereas if you were playing out in a club, you wouldn't maybe get a chance to speak to those guys, whereas, you know, if you're doing this on Mixcloud Live, the guys are able to interact with you and comment on your do you know what I mean? Do you feel it's more of a personal interaction, or even though you can't see them?
Well, I think the bit that I still find quite, I can't quite get my head around it, is when you're a DJ and producer and that's what you do, you are mostly concentrating on what you're doing, certainly if it's from a production standpoint, stuff like that. What you don't realise, because you get the fact that people come to live events, clubs, whatever the case may be, because they want to have a good time and they might be enthusiasts, but they might just want to just enjoy the atmosphere and just get a bit pissed or whatever they want to do. What I never realised is the size of the community out there that just love house music. And they're totally enthusiasts. I mean, I do a live stream show on Twitch every Thursday. And these people have like welcomed me, like you've described, like a family into their community. And they tune in, they comment, they stay, they support. And it's been mind-blowing, because you're right, from a live sense, people do that, but it is different. You know, at the end of the day, they're there to enjoy themselves in the atmosphere. Whereas these people, there is an atmosphere to it, but at the end of the day, they're just watching me on a camera. And it's like, it's so heartwarming that these people then, they champion what you're doing, they buy my new records, you know, it's like, it's quite touching, really, because I think, like, I don't know, I think if the whole COVID thing wouldn't have happened, I don't know if I ever would have experienced any of that personally.
I certainly don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing now.
No.
If it wasn't for the situation. And do you know, as you say, that people welcoming you in, and it's heartwarming, you know, like it's really good for me. So a lot of my friends and my close friends and family, you know, it's like, it's my show on a Saturday now is like part of their routine. Which is lovely. I get people texting us and messaging us all the time, will you put this on this week? And, you know, and some of the best songs and classics I've played is because my mates have reminded us of them. And it's like, and it's just, I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's just, it's great to think that I'm having a positive impact, or I feel I'm having a positive impact on people's weekends that, you know, it's just, it's really nice. I love it.
No, it's,
I know what you mean, mate. About,
it's different. You know, I do my live stream show on Twitch, and I never thought I would ever actually look forward to it, but I genuinely do look forward to it, because I know that, generally speaking, I know the people that are going to show up in my chat. I know, and it's nice to say, you know, nice to see how they are and stuff like that. And it's something that, as I say, before COVID, if anybody would have said to me, you know, this sort of thing will become a thing, I'd have just said, it'll never take off. Nobody's ever going to sit in the comfort of their own home watching somebody on a screen DJ. I don't even think it's about that. It's about community. That's what I've realised. It's about, you know, all these people that show up, mate, that watch my live stream show on a Thursday, you know, however many it is, which varies, they all know each other. They all like, they might not have never met, but they know each other through interaction on the platform. It's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know,
it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
In an ideal world, like if your dreams could come true, where would you want to take this? You know, as a career, what would you?
I mean, if you'd said it was a year ago that I'd be on a, like, you know, I'd have my own show every Saturday, I would have said, yeah, that's my dream. But thinking of it, I've never ever played out at an actual festival. Where you've got, like, I don't know, hundreds, whatever, of people in an open air festival. It doesn't even have to be a huge name festival. I was meant to be playing with the NDC at the Darley Dance Festival in Derby this year. But with COVID, it got cancelled. It was an absolute nightmare. And I was gutted about that. But that's, for me, apart from DJing in Ibiza, which is everybody's I think dream, but I've always had that dream. To play out at a festival would be awesome. And it's something I'm striving towards. And you know, there's loads of opportunities out there, and I just need to keep going and keep trying. And I would like to think that it might happen. Came so close this year, but obviously with COVID, it was cancelled, unfortunately. But I'm really hopeful that next year something will, and that ultimately, and I just want to, I want to keep improving. With my, I reflect on my radio show every Saturday. I listen back. I want to keep improving. I want to keep developing. I want to keep building up relationships like like myself and you. Just building up really good relationships within an industry and just see how far I can take it. Not really bothered up producing. It's more, and I know, like,
not really interested in.
Not at the moment. I mean, I'm not saying it's not something I wouldn't want to do down the line, but I feel like I want to continue improving what I'm doing right now, and then maybe look at other options. But that would be the dream for me, mate. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, like I say, I love I do my own sort of like pre-recorded radio show just once a month for data transmission myself, and doing the live stream shows. But they're good. They're good in different ways. You know, like pre-recorded's a bit different because then you're not actually interacting with people then and there. You know, it's a pre-recorded show that just goes out. Live stream shows, there's interactions, but as good as they are, it never replaces playing to people live, because exactly what you're describing with the festival thing, when you are DJing to however many people it is, that's human beings standing in front of you, that you're feeling each other's energy. And when you play, you know, that track or that you know, you do that set or those tracks, and you see the impact it has on people, it's nothing short of amazing, isn't it? That's
it for me, mate. That's me dream. Just to be there, and as you say, feed off each other's energy, like people who have got that same love as I do for the music. To be able to kind of be the one playing the music, and I know how I've felt when I've been to a festival or I've been, and I want to just that's the dream. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
you'll definitely do it, mate. I mean, it's it's a special thing that, you know, I think outside of people that do it, and I suppose it's exactly the same if you're a musician and you play live and stuff like that, to be able to, you know, have that connection with the people that, you know, you're playing music to, I think it's a real privilege, really, you know, to be able to do that, and to be able to, like, you know, give them that positivity, and that's created, you know, by you and the records you choose or whatever the case may be. It's a real peak time experience, I think. That
100%, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, amazing.
So in respect of so you do your radio show, and obviously you're fully into it. The production thing's not something that you're too fussed about, and mate, I'll be honest, it's a very time-consuming thing anyway.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So you've got to have plenty of time on your hands to be like. People say to me, "Oh, like, you know, how long do you spend on your production stuff?" Well, like, I would say in the last 5 years, I've probably spent the best part of like 20 hours a week, you know, producing. It's like, so if you haven't got that, well, you can do it differently. Some people flit in and flit out, but the thing is that it just would take such a long time to do things, you know. It's really hard to get better at it.
Plus, you've got to have the kit as well. You've got to have the money to buy the kit. Again, it's not easy. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's quite challenging. So I want to talk about some advice that you can offer back to the people from what you've learned, really.
Yeah.
So, sort of like 3 pieces of advice for people that are either getting into the industry or, you know, are in it, from what you've learned from your experience. What would you say?
Really good question. I think for me, first of all, try and surround yourself around positive people.
Yeah.
You know, don't listen to any negativity. You're never going to be perfect. Try and be positive yourself, and surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah.
Seek advice, seek feedback. Always, you're never going to improve if you don't like put yourself out there and ask for people's their feedback and their thoughts and stuff like that. In taking advice, you were really good to me and speak to us, and you didn't have to do that. And you know, one of the things would be being nice to people, help people, support them, and seek out that support. So that would be the first big thing for me. You know, what the kind of the positive element about it, getting feedback, seeking advice. You know, be nice and be kind to other people and other DJs. Work together with them, feed off their experiences, which I do with yourself and other people, and it's made a massive difference to me.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for that, Tom. To be honest with you,
my pleasure, mate.
Second one, if I had a second thing, I would say, just I know it sounds, but just keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
Do stuff all the time. Research your music. You know, get familiar with the labels. Listen to your tunes. Be familiar with the the kind of music and the kind of music you can be playing. Yeah. Do mixes. Put mixes out there. Even if you do a mix every week, put it out there. Put a mix every week on the Mixcloud or SoundCloud. You know, get a SoundCloud account where you can put mixes out there as many as you want instead of being restricted. I know it's a little bit extra money, but it's worth it. Just keep putting mixes out there, because if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be on the radio station and I wouldn't be doing gigs and stuff like that, what I'm doing now. And the big thing for me, I think, and I was just I was really set my ways with social media.
Yeah.
Hadn't been on social media for like 11 years. And, you know, again, when I spoke about advice, you know, people were saying you need to get on some kind of social media. I was like, nah, I can't be bothered and stuff like that. And setting my ways, and you know, if I hadn't, and I'm on Instagram, but if I hadn't joined Instagram, I wouldn't have started chatting to you. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't be able to interact with just some of the different DJs, residents on the station. You know, it's such an easy way to promote my show. It's an easy way to promote events that I'm doing. It's free. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, and you know, it's been massive for me. To social media. If you're not on social media, get on it, and if you're on it, just try and push it as much as you can. within the laws that you're allowed to.
Yeah.
But big three things for me, those definitely.
Yeah.
What
Mate,
what about you, Tom?
Okay, right. Right, mate, you caught me off guard.
Not three. You don't have to say three, but maybe just one. What would be the one big thing for you?
Right. The one big thing for me would be is trying to decide which direction you actually want to go with this, because the actions and activities that you may need to take may be different. So say, for instance, if you want to just be a DJ and you just want to get gigs locally, that's going to require a set of actions. And people ask me quite often, like, I'm really trying to get gigs and stuff like that. And the answer is exactly the same. And it doesn't matter who you speak to. The first thing they'll always say to you is, well, obviously, as long as you can DJ, and stuff like that, you've got a bit of competency around it, is, do you go to any of the events that you want to DJ at? And if you don't, then it's difficult, because really, to get gigs locally, you need to be a bit of a man or a woman on around the scene. And then you'll get to know people and you'll get to speak to the people that are into it. And if they see you there all the time, then chances are you'll probably land a spot. And if you then do okay, then if you support what they're doing, they'll probably get you on as a as a fairly regular thing. Now, if your dream is to tour the world as a DJ, and your dream is to really push it, mate, you can go and do all that local networking as much as you want and getting those gigs. It's probably highly unlikely it's ever going to get you to that stage where you're able to tour the world, because the whole sort of project is different. Then it is about you making the best music you can. It's about you building a fan base. It's about you building almost like a brand. It's about like you were saying about social media, it's about you really blowing that up. It's about it's a whole different set of actions. And that's what I would say is, like, going back to my original point, is for anybody getting into this, once you've been into it for a while, I would say really sit and think about, like, where do you want to take this? Because if you just want to keep it as a hobby and something that you enjoy, and you're happy to get paid a little bit of money from it and stuff like that, not a problem. That's brilliant. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. No. Or if you want to, whatever direction, but if you really want to push it and you really want to try and get yourself out there, you're going to have to really get stuck in the trenches, mate. Do you know what I mean? Because that is a hard thing to do, and I'm personally experiencing it myself, that it's a really long endeavor, and you have to be on it all the time, making music, promoting yourself, thinking of ways to build a fan base, build a brand, getting people interested in what you're doing, putting music out, promoting that music, you need to be all things to all men. And that would be my biggest piece of advice, would be just decide which direction you want to go in with it, and just commit. If you want to be an artist, then fully commit to it and kick the arse out of it. If you just want to enjoy your DJing, don't worry about any of that. You don't need to worry about it. Just play around with it. Do you know what I mean? If you want to make a tune, for your mates, do it. Do you know what I mean? But like, it's a whole different set of actions, is what I would say.
Awesome advice, mate. Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Spot on.
So, mate, we're bearing towards the end. Where can people find you?
As I say, I'm only on Instagram. If you search for DJ Moll, which is DJ MOLL NDC. So DJ Moll NDC on Instagram. You can find us on there. I've also got a Mixcloud and Soundcloud account as well, which is just search for DJ Moll. And you can find us on there. So I've got all my mixes and different things like that, and all the historical shows are uploaded to SoundCloud and Mixcloud as well, so you can listen back on there as well.
And how can we listen to your radio show, mate?
So every Saturday between 1 and 3 p.m. UK time, it's you can go to the website, which is www.ndcradio.co.uk, and there's the listen live function on there, or there's the NDC Radio free app, which is available in all app stores. So you can download the app for free and listen that way as well.
mate.
Yeah, so a couple of different ways there.
Yeah, so we can
appreciate more listeners, of course. Yeah, thanks for that, mate. Yeah, lovely. I like it.
You know, anybody who comes across this or happens to listen in, go and follow this chap, because as you can hear from the show, is a man who's genuinely really interested in the positivities of house music. And that's and I'll tell you another thing that I wanted to say is it's a pleasure to speak to somebody who's humble. You really got a humble way about you where you know, I don't think there's much of a place for arrogance in what we do, because you end up turning a lot of people off around you. And actually your way of actually just being appreciative of, you know, the opportunities you've had, what you do, being able to bring your art to people, I think is really nice, mate. We've got to say.
Oh, thanks, Tom. And the station really instills that behavior as well.
Yeah.
But that's just me. But yeah, I can say the same for you, mate. It's you know, it's been a real pleasure to you know, to have this opportunity to speak with you. And there's no, for me, there's no room for any kind of arrogance or anything like that. And when it comes to just trying to make people happy with your music, you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
That's the name of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, definitely, mate.
Right, mate, we've come to the end. Stay on, because I will speak to you after. But mate, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Cheers,
Not a problem, mate.